The advantages and damages of canned food. We frequently feel that canned food varieties are less nutritious than new and frozen food sources, and some think that they contain hurtful fixings and ought to be kept away from, while others imagine that canned food sources are a fundamental piece of the eating regimen. Canned food sources incorporate natural products, vegetables, meat, and food. Naval Force. What is canning? Canning is a strategy used to protect nourishment for significant stretches of time, giving food lasting. Through the year and unavailable, food is put in hermetically sealed jars. Canning was first utilized in the late 1800 years as a method for giving a steady food source to fighters and mariners in the conflict. Canning steps. Handling, a phase in which food is stripped, cut, cooked, or destroyed, as in fish. Canning. In this stage, the handled food is put in extraordinary compartments. Cleansing, at this stage the jars are warmed to a specific temperature to kill unsafe microbes and forestall deterioration. How does canning influence the healthy benefit? As a matter of fact, jars hold a large portion of the supplements, protein, fats, and carbs are not impacted by the canning system, and canned food varieties hold a greater part of the minerals and fat-solvent nutrients like nutrients say, D, E, and K. However, since jars are presented to high temperatures, they are water-solvent nutrients can be harmed. Canned features. Canned food varieties are reasonable, cost not exactly new produce, and can be put away for quite some time without ruining, guaranteeing that individuals get an assortment of supplements throughout the entire year. Canned harms. Canned food might contain measures of BPA, a compound utilized in food bundling. This substance goes from the covering of the can to the food eaten, concentrates undirected on 78 sorts of canned food varieties. Saw that as 90% of them contain BPA, and studies have connected BPA to ailments like coronary illness and type 2 diabetes. Untreated canned food sources might contain hazardous microbes known as Clostridium botulinum, which causes food contamination, which prompts loss of motion and passing whenever left untreated, so it is vital not to eat jars that are enlarged, broke, or cracked. At times salt, sugar, and additives are added during the canning system, which works on the flavor, surface, and appearance. Abundant salt causes issues for individuals with hypertension, and added sugar builds the gamble of numerous sicknesses, like weight, coronary illness, and diabetes. The racks of the grocery store are loaded up with various sorts of food jars that numerous ladies use to get fast and simple suppers that don't require some investment. Do you utilize them, lady? Do you know the damages of food jars and their effect on your well-being and the strength of your kids? Are familiar them? Food jars are jars used to save food prepared for use, like jars of fish, and numerous synthetics are added to it, for example, additives to protect nourishment to the extent that this would be possible, and flavor and variety added substances to give it a heavenly taste and appealing shape. Canned food contains an acidic substance to keep food from form, which might cause intense or persistent stomach contaminations, and may prompt stomach ulcers. Food jars contain a lot of calories, which might prompt weight with its inconveniences like diabetes, coronary illness, and veins. May prompt the development of stones in the gallbladder. It can cause ongoing blockage. May contain substances that might cause unfavorably susceptible responses and rashes. It contains a high measure of salt, which might prompt coronary illness and hypertension. Natural product canned food contains a high measure of sugar that might hurt diabetic patients. Food protected in aluminum jars is a well-being peril since aluminum spills into food, which might cause Alzheimer's illness. The covers of the jars contain BPA, which is bisphenol A, which might cause a lopsidedness in chemicals, and may prompt coronary illness and malignant growth. Openness to bisphenol A. Bisphenol isn't utilized to safeguard canned food sources, however is utilized in the production of food bundling, which causes it to decay to arrive at canned food. A review was directed that remembered 78 examples of canned nourishment for search of bisphenol and saw that as 71 of them contain the substance. Canned products of the soil are more secure, as they don't contain this substance in overflow. After this data, You should be considering what are the damages of bisphenol A? The harms are various, the most unmistakable of which are the accompanying. 1. Conceptive problems. It was found that openness to this substance can influence the divisions of the prepared egg and not be shaped to turn into an incipient organism. It likewise influences the capacity of the endocrine organs, and this decreases the discharge of its chemicals, prompting an impact on adolescence and ovulation, and some of the time prompts fruitlessness. 2. Coronary illness. BPA adds to an expansion in heart issues, including cardiovascular failures, angina pectoris, fringe blood vessel sickness, and coronary supply route illness. 3. Type 2 diabetes. Bisphenol adds to high glucose levels. Increments glucose narrow-mindedness and changes in insulin discharge, all of which add to type 2 diabetes. 4. Bosom and prostate disease. Bisphenol A has comparable properties to estrogen, and this adds to an expanded gamble of bosom, malignant growth in ladies, and prostate disease in men. 5. Emergency. An investigation discovered that there was a relationship between openness to BPA when labor and an expanded gamble of asthma. Openness to food contamination. Food contamination seldom happens while eating canned food sources, and assuming it works out, the jars are frequently lapsed or inadequately put away, and the explanation for this harming is the presence of Clostridium botulinum microbes in jars, which at times causes loss of motion or passing whenever left untreated. It ought to be noted underneath the signs and side effects of food contamination brought about by eating. Harm jars. Obscured vision. Ptosis. Breathing hardships. Gulping and talking issues. Stomach bulging and squeezes. Regurgitating and sickness. Unexpected shortcoming and whiteness of the face. Openness to constant sicknesses. Notwithstanding the way that bisphenol A causes ongoing sicknesses, the matter isn't restricted to it. However, the presence of a lot of salt or sugar in the bundles builds these dangers, as it is realized that eating more sugar or salt opens the body to coronary illness and type 2 diabetes, as well as corpulence. Tips to keep away from the harm of food jars, however much as could be expected. Here are the top tips in such manner. Totally abstain from eating food sources in protruding or broke compartments. Pick the canned things loaded up with water or 100% regular juice. Pick canned food that says no additional salt or expresses low in sodium. Washing canned food varieties prior to eating them if conceivable, for example, vegetables and grains. These things can be washed, however meat, this can't be. Eating canned food varieties following opening them and not leaving them for quite a while, particularly as they will be presented to decaying and numerous microbes, and eating them rapidly guarantees that you get every one of the supplements in them before you lose them. Pick frozen food sources rather than canned ones, and this choice is awesome, since frozen food sources save the majority of their supplements and don't add additives, salt or sugar, and they don't contain the most risky substance, bisphenol A. Instructions to diminish the damage of food jars. We can diminish the level of mischief coming about because of the utilization of food jars by following a few strategies, to be specific. Diminishing the sum and number of food jars that we use consistently, as well as supplanting a few kinds of canned food with sound and new food sources like ghee and creature items. Not to utilize food jars after a significant stretch of legitimacy has passed. For instance, in the event that the item is for a time of a half year, we use it with a limit of 4 months just from the start of its legitimacy. Void the water or the level of oils from the can prior to utilizing what is in it, as this technique shields the body somewhat from the damage of additives to the wholesome substance inside the can. How to avoid canned food poisoning? What is the safe period for storing canned foods? And how is it? What is the safe period for storing canned foods? And how to choose canned food so that it does not cause food poisoning or an allergic reaction? These and other questions can save your life or that of any member of your family. A hectic life, job, and long periods away from home can cloud our thinking and make us uncertain about when we buy ready-to-eat and packaged foods.